Hi folks, and welcome to today's webinar, 7 Keys to More Profitable Payroll Processing. We'll be getting started in just about a minute and a half here. We'll just wait for more folks to come in. Thanks for joining us today. We're looking forward to this session. Hope you had a great weekend, and hopefully we can get your week started well here. All right, folks, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Div Bansali, and I'm joined today by Tyler DeRosa, also here at Accountants World. He's a senior practice development consultant, and we're going to be talking to you about some of the best practices for building a profitable payroll practice that we've learned both ourselves and from our thousands of payroll processing customers as well. So thanks for joining us today. We're looking forward to getting going here. Quick reminder, this is a CPE eligible webinar. 3 things to earn CPE: attend the live webinar for at least 50 minutes, respond to all 3 of the polling questions, and then after the webinar is over, after you X out of it, you'll see a post-webinar survey come up from GoToWebinar. Just make sure you complete and submit that post-webinar survey. If you don't see it pop up right away, no worries. We'll email you a link as well, and you just need to complete it within the next 24 hours after the webinar. You'll receive your CPE confirmation in your email within 3 business days, so towards the end of this week. And if you haven't already done so, please add webinar@accountantsworld.com to your trusted email list. That'll make sure that you get all emails from us related to this webinar and CPE credit for today's webinar and future webinars, so that things don't end up in your spam folder. So please go ahead and do that if you haven't already. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. One of the questions that spurred us to create this presentation, and something that we've given a lot of thought to, and I think anyone who's been in the payroll business for any period of time has been thinking about, is why are some payroll practices so much more profitable than others? And what led us to thinking about that is the fact that there seems to be, and we've seen some articles in Accounting Today and elsewhere over the past couple of years that allude to this, there is a wide disparity in the profit margins of different firms that are doing payroll, perhaps more so than for other services that accounting firms would be offering. And so when we started to investigate why that was, one very simple way to think about it is just start at the beginning. Right, so our gross profit is our revenue minus the cost of delivering that service, and the key is reducing the costliest component of processing, which is the labor cost. So you see a quote down at the bottom from Matt Contardi, one of our customers with Payroll Relief. Previously, my firm could process only 100 payrolls with a staff of 2. Now the same staff is processing 300 payrolls. We've seen other cases where accountants are processing 200 to 400 payrolls using only 2 to 4 paraprofessionals. And that's a great recipe for reducing the costliest component of payroll processing, the labor cost, to a bare minimum. And that's how many of these firms are realizing 50, 60, or even higher % gross margins from their payroll services. And the best part is that they're making all that money spending just a few hours a week of their own time supervising their staff and managing their payroll practice. And so that then has a huge benefit to them in terms of being able to use that time for other profit generating activities as well. So we're going to walk you through the steps of how to do that. But also realize that that's just one step in sort of building a comprehensively successful solution or for your payroll processing. So to that end, what I'd like to do at this time is go ahead and launch our first poll question. So this is the first of our 3 poll questions today. You should be seeing it open in front of you now. And the question is, what's the main thing holding back your practice from being more profitable? And if you don't have a practice, you can just click other. But I'm interested in getting a sense of your perception of what's preventing your payroll practice from being more profitable than it already is. So just a reminder, this is the first of 3 poll questions that are required. Your response is required in order to earn CPE credit today. And so I see about 85% of you have already voted at this point. That's great. So for anybody who has not yet, please go ahead and get your vote in. We'll take another few seconds here so folks can get their vote in. All right, going once, going twice. Okay, so we'll go ahead and close that out. Okay, so getting new clients was the primary response here, though less than 50% of overall responses. So pretty good variety here of responses. Inefficiencies in our process, that's one that we hear a lot. Generally speaking, I would say I think I probably see about equal numbers between inefficiencies in processes and getting new clients. So interesting that it leans more towards the client side today. We'll be talking about that as well today. Software limitations, labor costs, get some chunk of responses as well, and then other, and that's also common, that there are a multitude of other factors that can influence the profitability of your practice. So that's great. Thank you for your responses there, and I'll try to use those a little bit as I go through the rest of the presentation. So where I want to start is with this quote from Steve Maraboli. And he says, once your mindset changes, everything on the outside will change along with it. And I think the way that that relates to payroll is that most accountants still believe that payroll is a low profit margin service. It continues to carry this stigma that I think was really created more than a decade ago. You could trace it back much further than that. But many accountants continue to hold on to that belief because they don't know how it could be otherwise. And in fact, there are many accountants we've talked to who offer payroll services only for one reason, and that's because some of their accounting and tax clients asked for it. And the most interesting thing I've heard is that some even use payroll services as a loss leader. They haven't figured out how to make money from payroll, but they're okay with it because it helps with client retention. That's sort of their perception now. What's interesting is the accountants who are running highly profitable payroll practices, the first thing is that they started with the commitment to make it an important profit center, to not think of it as a loss leader, to not think of it as something that comes out neutral in the wash, but to think of it something that is strategically important to their offerings as a whole. And that commitment then motivated them to find all the possible ways to make their payroll practice highly profitable. So once you have that mindset of continually looking for and exploring ways to optimize and grow your practice, then by taking some relatively simple steps, you can generate profit from payroll services while reducing your firm's workload, just as these other firms have. The key approach is to find every possible way to save time, minimize the effort it takes to process payrolls, and then increase your revenue through right pricing and smart marketing. And so that's sort of the order in which we're going to go through this today. Is first looking for where are opportunities for efficiency and minimizing the effort it takes to process payrolls, and then looking at the revenue side in terms of what we can do in terms of adding more value, pricing, and smart marketing as well. So we're going to talk about the need for an industrial strength professional system, and I'm very deliberate in using that phrase, industrial strength. Here's why. Many payroll processors are still using desktop-based payroll systems or systems that were designed specifically for very small businesses to run their own payrolls. And if you're using a system like that, then chances are you're wasting a tremendous amount of time unnecessarily, and your overall cost of processing payroll is going to go up. And that in turn is going to eat into your bottom line. It's also going to be more stressful for your staff and more prone to errors. So I just pointed to a few things that industrial strength professional systems have as an advantage. And I want to give an analogy to explain why. If you had to take a couple of kids to school every day, maybe right now is not the right time to be thinking about that, depending on where you're living right now. But sometime soon, we'll get back to taking kids to school. If you had to take a couple of kids to school, it would make perfect sense to use a car. That's the right tool for the job there. But if you had to take 15 or 20 or 30 kids to school, you're not going to use a car because that would be very inefficient. That would be very cumbersome. The best vehicle to use to take 20 or 30 kids to school is a bus. And the same analogy applies to payroll processing as well. Payroll solutions that were created for businesses to process their own small payrolls are not the right solution for you to provide payroll services to a large number of businesses. Payroll processing requires a multitude of really time-sensitive activities. And a payroll system that was created for small business needs might be able to keep track of those activities for a couple of employers, but not for 30 or 50 or 100 or 200 or more employers. It becomes too cumbersome a juggling act when you're using these systems for running your payroll practice. A system that's designed exclusively for providing payroll services has a very different model than the end user systems. First of all, they provide capabilities for being on top of managing every aspect of payroll processing for your clients, capabilities that are simply not available in systems that are created primarily for small businesses. And we're going to see a couple of those capabilities in just a minute. Some end user payroll systems have retrofitted some of those capabilities of professional systems, but there's still no match to the power of dedicated service bureau style professional systems. There's another advantage of using an industrial strength system, and that is that professional systems are designed for payroll professionals, and therefore they're not sold directly to your clients. So unlike providers of end user systems who sell their solutions to small businesses, including your clients, and who make upgrades to those systems based on the needs of your clients, not your needs, you don't have to worry about the providers of professional systems ever competing with you, right? So they're your ally rather than your competitor. So let's talk about a couple of things that you should look for in an industrial strength system. Well, first, a management console that provides an overview of all of your clients' payrolls and key information. That includes the status of each client's payroll, processing dates, upcoming forms due, upcoming tax due dates, right? All of that is available in one console. The console highlights items that require immediate attention. In this case, this is a screenshot from Payroll Relief, our payroll processing solution. You'll see everything that requires attention being in red. So when the payroll processor logs into the system, they have a clear picture of what needs to be done that day. And they and their staff can stay on top of all of their client payrolls all the time. Next, if you ask most processors and their clients for that matter, what's your biggest stress point with payroll? Payroll tax payments. That's one that comes up all the time. They have to be made on time to avoid penalties and interest. The downside of missing that from a compliance perspective is so enormous, both in terms of dollars and cents and in terms of your reputation as well, that it's critical you're 100% on top of that. So this is a pending tax payments dashboard. Provides an overview of all client tax payments that are due with critical information such as the amount, the agency, debit date, and method of payment, and that protects you from defaulting on any pending tax payments. Now, in a professional system, most taxes are paid by the system on time, but it's important to keep track of all of those pending taxes so that you understand exactly what's happening from a fiscal perspective, both for you and for your clients as well. Next up, this might be the most crucial factor in choosing a professional payroll system, and that is the level of automation that it provides. How many payroll tasks can it perform automatically, on time, and with 100% guaranteed accuracy of calculation, right? So our checklist is 4 categories. Your payroll system should do all of the following automatically and on time: direct deposit of paychecks, electronic payment of federal and state taxes and child support, e-filing of quarterly and annual federal and state tax forms, and complete year-end processing, including e-filing of W-2s, W-3s, and 1099s. And the impact of this actually grows as your practice grows as well. So as you gain more efficiency and you're able to take on more clients and also know what kinds of clients you're really looking for, and we'll talk more about that process shortly, as you're growing, the benefits of a highly automated professional payroll system actually grow with you. They can potentially save you tens of thousands of dollars by reducing staff hours significantly and ensuring compliance as well. Next up, we want to set the proper processes and procedures. We want to try to clearly define internal roles for all aspects of the payroll process. Basically, we want to understand who is doing what and when, right? So some of the things that can help us from a more detailed perspective in doing that, always have a backup plan. Larger firms often already have the staff to handle any payroll scenario that might come up, any issue that might come up. They can have backup staff to do it. Smaller firms and sole practitioners should consider training other staff or having some other backup plan should core payroll staff have any emergencies. Right, so let's actually document that and figure out exactly what that's going to look like. Next, set up formal procedures to handle payroll exceptions. No matter how professional your clients are, you're occasionally going to run across situations that require special attention, such as a client with NSFs, non-sufficient funds, or a form to be e-filed, getting rejected because of some error. Now, these are issues that are highly time sensitive, and you need processes that allow you to immediately flag and resolve those issues quickly with the utmost urgency. Next up, provide oversight and periodically review policies and procedures. So not only do you want to go ahead and create your policies and procedures, but you want to regularly review them, because you might find, for example, that your solution provider has made some significant enhancements to their payroll solution. And to take full advantage of it, you might need to tweak your procedures to make sure that you're in lockstep with the solution that you're using. So you may have had processes that were working very well in the past, but there's an opportunity to now adjust those and optimize those to create greater efficiencies in your overall practice. Next, give special attention to year-end processing. So everyone who enters payroll services for the first time is always struck by what year-end ends up looking like. And it is the first time that anyone goes through it, it's invariably a very stressful, time-demanding, excruciating process to go through. So, and it's also a critical aspect of providing payroll services. So what can your system do to help you there? Well, a industrial strength, sound payroll system should perform most of the year-end compliance tasks automatically. Now, you're still going to need to be vigilant. Year-end processing still requires you to collect a lot of information from all of your clients, such as the pseudo rate, correct employee information, benefits, etc. Many software providers will offer a comprehensive year-end planning guide to help you with all of these year-end tasks. And so we're looking to make sure that we stay on top of all of those tasks, and we're able to allocate appropriate time and staffing levels to make sure that they're all done in a timely fashion. The next part I want to talk about is an important question to be asking yourself through this process, and that is, are my clients going to perform some of these tasks themselves? Now, some professional systems make it easy for your clients to perform tasks themselves. So the most common tasks that a professional system is going to sort of leave on your desk for you to decide how they're handled: entering payroll data, and then printing paychecks for clients who are not enrolled in direct deposit. So some possibilities for how your clients may be able to assist with performing those tasks. In the payroll relief system and some other systems, a link can be sent to your clients that gives them access to a simple screen for entering payroll data. That data entry screen is customized for each client, and it displays each employee's default hours, so it saves them time as well. The client only needs to enter data for the fields that are exceptions or changes, such as sick pay and vacation days. The data entered by the client goes right into the payroll system. Now, most clients would be happy to provide data this way. It eliminates data entry in your office, saves your firm a lot of time, and from their perspective, ensures greater accuracy as well. Next up, printing checks. Turns out you can even eliminate the need for printing checks in your office. You can save time by using a system that lets you securely send a PDF file of paychecks to your clients using encrypted email, or by saving them in a secure client portal for clients to print from their office. Now, we don't want to be sending this in regular email or by other unsecured methods, right? But industrial grade systems have often solved that problem for you and provided a secure way for you to be able to do this. And again, many clients are going to like this option because it saves them the cost of mailing paychecks, and it saves them time in that process as well. So the key here is we want to look for systems that give you the flexibility to allow your clients to perform some of these tasks themselves if it's right for you and if it's right for your clients, right? And then you can set up the processes accordingly depending on how many of your clients you feel would benefit from that. A few other considerations for an industrial strength system. Batch operations. Another important use of batch operations is printing W-2s and 1099s in large batches for the employees of all of your clients. Imagine how much time you can save by printing hundreds of W-2s for many clients with just a few mouse clicks rather than having to go one by one. Batch printing is available in some professional payroll systems, including ours. Employee portals. You want to ensure that you set up employee portals so that your clients' employees can view their paychecks and W-2s online and upload documents such as W-4s, I-9s, and direct deposit authorization forms. The employee portal should also allow employees to make changes to their demographic information. That's something that is much better handled through a portal rather than some other transfer where they have to ask for access to something or where you have to change that information. Your clients will appreciate this because it saves them the hassle of distributing pay stubs or providing copies of W-2s that employees might need, but that were misplaced. Next, we want to look for systems that are comprehensive, and we want them to be comprehensive to support the needs of both your current clients as well as potential new clients as well. Systems that were created primarily for small businesses often have limitations in this area. And so you want to make sure that a professional system that you use overcomes those limitations and offers things like unlimited pay types, including PTO, cash, and paycheck tips, reimbursement, user-defined pay types, customizable deductions, full support of fringe benefits, and third-party sick pay. These are some of the key capabilities, though it's not an extensive list, but those are some of the key things that you are going to want to look for. Now, right now, you may be saying, well, I don't need to process payroll for clients with 500 or 1,000 employees, so not all of those things are applicable to me. But a system that can process those sizes of payrolls demonstrates the robustness of the system, and it helps ensure that you're going to be able to handle whatever dependencies and specific client situations you might have there. Alerts and other client communications. We want to make sure that we're able to be alerted and have communication with our clients as well for compliance tasks, for any exceptional cases, any problems that might arise. The ability to share and archive payroll reports and forms. You generate payroll reports every time you process payrolls. And then there are quarterly reports and payroll forms. At year end, you create W-2s, 1099, 941, and other sets of payroll reports. So how do you get all these documents to your clients in a secure way? Well, client portals are a great solution to that, right? We eliminate email, we eliminate, well, I don't remember receiving this. Can you send it to me by mail? Can you do this? Can you drop it off, right? Client portals, secure access for both you and your clients, That's a great way to solve that problem. And then finally, integration with other systems. Many payroll providers integrate with HR platforms as well as with their accounting system as well. And that's going to save you time both at year end and throughout the year as well. And then finally, more and more systems offer robust mobile apps for both you and for your clients as well, so that you can conduct business on the go, anytime, anywhere. I think especially this year, that's become a really important consideration for many people who are looking for a professional system, making sure that you have robust mobile apps that support you there as well. All right, so just go back one sec. Okay, so this is actually a good time for me to go ahead and launch the second poll question, and so I'll go ahead and get this up. So before we get to talking about costs and pricing and smart marketing, the question in front of you right now is, what's the primary reason your current clients selected your payroll firm? Level of service, or local, low cost, or not sure, or not applicable if you don't have a payroll service yet. So go ahead and select whichever one of those, select one of the following, and then make sure to click the submit button so that your vote is counted. Also, just a reminder, this is the second of 3 poll questions today, and voting in the poll questions is required in order to earn CPE credit. So we'll take about 15 seconds here for folks to get their responses in.
Hey, Div, just real quick. Hey, folks, this is Tom Provine. I'm a marketing coordinator with Accountants World. I just wanted to jump in here and see, we just have a couple questions coming in regarding the material that Div is discussing. We're going to ask those questions at the end of the presentation today, or answer them rather, but keep them coming in. We're more than happy to take any questions on profitable payroll processing that you want answered. And like Div said, this is the second poll question for CPE today.
All right, so it looks like just about everybody has voted at this point. We'll take 5 seconds here in case you haven't. Going once, going twice. All right, close that up. Okay, so among those who were confident about their answer or for whom this was applicable, vast majority of you said level of service. Second place were local, third place low cost. So this is both consistent with what I've heard in previous forums and in talking to successful providers, and it's also, I think, accurate in terms of how your clients are thinking about it as well. And that's sort of where I want to align to next. So if we think about cost and pricing, obviously both of those are linked together there. When we're thinking about our payroll system, don't think about the software cost alone. What you want to be thinking about is what's called the total cost of ownership. And so total cost of ownership considers the total labor cost, staff, payroll, and benefits, along with the cost of the software and any maintenance that goes along with that as well. The software cost for doing payrolls is typically much lower than the labor cost, especially for firms that are less efficient. So first, focus on finding a payroll system that lets your firm process payrolls as efficiently as possible with minimal labor cost. Your best bet is to find a reasonably priced software that significantly reduces your labor cost. If you can solve that part of it, you're 50% of the way there, give or take, in terms of getting to optimal efficiency. Now, if you're currently using a desktop payroll system, then expect to pay a lot more when you upgrade to a cloud-based professional system, but that's upfront cost and it'll be worth your while. I'll give you an example. One of our users was spending less than $1,000 on a desktop payroll system. When he moved to our payroll relief system, he paid over $12,000 in the first year. But he was actually delighted because he was able to save the expense of a full-time staff, right? So the growth he had didn't require the addition of a full-time staff, which it otherwise would have, right? So obviously we can see in terms of the overall impact on profitability that decision was hugely positive for them, even though the cost of software actually went up there. You also want to make sure that you have a system that is going to be able to be right for the number of clients that you have right now, as well as the number that you're expecting in the future as well. You want to make sure not to underprice yourself, right? And this is a mistake that we see many firms making, is to price themselves to get a sense of what the competitive price is in the marketplace and then undercut that price. Number one, that's not doing you any favors. It's going to make it more difficult to get to a sustainable profit margin. And number two, you're going to start a vicious cycle. Whoever it is that you feel like you're competing against, you're going to start a vicious cycle that goes towards the lowest common denominator rather than the highest level of value and service, right? And so it's important to remember that value is the amount of service that's perceived to be delivered minus the amount of cost associated with that service, right? And that's a much more important factor here than price itself. Successful processors always win on service. And if you want to see an example of this, go and do a search on the reviews that you can see online. And we're going to talk more about client testimonials and reviews in a minute. But go and look for reviews of payroll firms in your area or in your industry that you focus on, whatever it might be. And look at how many of them talk about either positively or negatively the price versus how many talk about service and level of commitment and quality to their clients, right? And it's going to be no contest. Service is what ends up winning the day with something like payroll processing. All right, next up, select the right clients. Now, we found that for some accountants, their payroll service, accountants and payroll processors who are not accountants, their payroll service has become more hassle and less profit over time. And there is one common theme that we see over and over again, and that is that they serve the wrong clients. Now, what do I mean by the wrong clients? Well, these are clients that are consistently unorganized or frequently have cash flow problems. The only criteria that these clients have is to get the lowest price. It's extremely important that you select the right clients for your payroll services. Make sure that the clients you take for payroll processing are fiscally responsible and don't run into constant cash flow problems. Now, being an accountant, you have a major advantage in that you know your current clients well. And so it's much easier for you to identify and avoid the clients that are not the right candidates for your payroll services. Think about it, if somebody walks in off the street without having been referred by anybody that you know, without you having any access to their prior accounting and tax data, if they walk in off the street, what you know about their priorities, their ability to pay for good service, what they're going to value, whether they're going to be a hassle to you and your staff, is really pretty limited. But if you already have a relationship with them, or if you already have access to their tax and accounting data to have a sense of their broader financial picture, that gives you a real leg up over other service providers. Now, if you have a brand new client, before you take them on, vet them very well and use full due diligence, right? I also think clear communication is really essential when you sit down with a new client. Your service contract should clearly define what services your firm will be providing. And for pricing your services properly, you need to know the full details of their business so that you can align it with that. As we discussed before, you can increase your profit margins by delegating certain tasks such as data entry and check printing to your clients. And this is an opportunity for you to present this as a benefit to your existing and potential clients. Ask them if they would like to have capabilities that would make it easy for them to get payroll data to you and to save money by avoiding shipping costs and time for paychecks. If they're interested in that, that can be one level of or one tier of service that you offer. Another one can be one that is more full service, and then perhaps you have one that's in between. Now, this is very, very common, having this sort of tiered levels of service based on the amount of delegation that you and they would like to be able to offer. So rather than one size fits all, you have 3 levels of service. And by the way, I'll mention, I'm a marketing guy, come from a marketing background. generally speaking in marketing, the research tells us that 3 is the magic number when it comes to tiers. Because what ends up happening is the majority of your clients will pick the middle. This is sort of the Goldilocks principle. The majority of people will pick the one that's not too big and not too small. And that allows you to better identify the people who are more value oriented and get them towards the lower tier, and the people who are looking for more premium full service and get them towards the higher tier as well. So this gives you the opportunity to maximize your profitability with each type of client, for you to know where to put in your time and effort depending on the level of service that you're being expected to provide, and make sure that your clients' expectations match yours as well, which will help with client satisfaction and retention as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and ask the third question here before we get into marketing, and then a brief demo of what a system like this looks like. So folks, you should see the third poll question open in front of you. How many payroll clients do you currently have? Less than 10, 11 to 50, 51 to 100, more than 100, or none yet. You may be just looking to get started, or this might be informational for you at this point. So please go ahead and select one of those following options, and then make sure to click the submit button. Also, just a reminder, if you're not able to vote, it could be because the presentation is in full mode, full window mode. So go ahead and X out of that to get it out of full screen mode, and then you should be able to vote in the poll and then come back to full screen mode. So that's a little wrinkle of GoToWebinar that we've seen over time. So if you're having any issues, that might be what the problem is. All right, so we've got almost 90% of attendees having voted at this point. That's great. We'll take 10 seconds more to get anybody else in who hasn't yet voted. Going once, going twice. Okay, so a pretty even split between less than 10 payroll clients versus 11 to 50, and then some portion had 51 to 100 and more than 100 as well. So great. Love seeing that sort of variety, and you know, I think, as we mentioned before, professional systems can always scale down, but a system designed for small businesses can't really scale up, right? So if you're interested in maximizing your profitability both now and in the future as you grow your practice, I definitely encourage you to go ahead and think of that investment as early as possible, rather than sort of struggling and puttering along with a system that you may have already outgrown and that you certainly plan to outgrow in the near future. So I want to talk briefly about marketing. First things first, nothing in marketing beats word of mouth, right? There's no magic bullet in marketing, and I've used almost every marketing tactic that you can imagine, but as a marketing professional myself and as a marketing manager, and nothing ever works as well as word of mouth. And there's this quote from Jonah Berger that you see on the left-hand side: advertising brings in customers, but word of mouth brings in the best customers. You're bringing in customers through word of mouth who are like the best, happiest customers you already have. Not only that, but they come in better informed and with a better point of view about your firm because of what they've already heard, right? So it's a win-win both in terms of client expectations and in terms of your ability to successfully and profitably deliver on top of that. So what can we do to generate more word of mouth? The most important part of this process, from my perspective, is to set up a systematic process for collecting reviews. You want to make sure that you're collecting reviews at the right time from the right customers. And so I want to just briefly go away from this PowerPoint and show an example of the power of client testimonials and reviews and what that can do for you. So hopefully you are seeing in front of you right now the website of Cirrus Payroll. This is one of our customers for payroll relief. They're located in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they've got a testimonials page on their site. And this is not like most testimonials pages. For one thing, it goes on and on and on. I have currently gone through about 10% of it. So you can scroll through it and see at cirruspayroll.com/testimonials, all of them in there. It's got photos of most of their clients in there. It's got their names. It's got links back to their organizations as well, which is a great favor to your clients to be able to provide that link back. That will help them get more people to their website as well. But the other thing is, these are not just somebody saying 5 stars or 4 stars. It is very detailed in terms of what they love about Cirrus Payroll. You'll see many of these are 3, 4, 5 sentences long. They explain exactly what they like so much about Cirrus Payroll. And the impact of that is twofold. One is obviously when people come to this site, they are impressed by seeing other businesses and organizations like theirs who are benefiting from working with Cirrus Payroll. But the other thing it does is Google eats this up. Google as a search engine absolutely loves seeing a diverse, very rich testimonials page like this. And so if you go to Google and you search on payroll in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is Cirrus's hometown, got a couple of ads up at the top, and then, as will often be the case, Google will show you a map. And the first option that comes up here is Cirrus Payroll. Cirrus Payroll has 158 reviews here on Google, and that's because Tyler Wynn, the head of Cirrus, has asked his best customers at very specific times in their relationship to write a review for them on Google. And so he knows exactly who he's asking, and he makes sure that he's asking the right people. 158 with a 5.0 average, which is almost unimaginable on Google. It almost never happens. Google rewards him for that by putting him ahead of Southwestern Payroll Service, which, by the way, is a business that has existed for 40 years longer than Cirrus Payroll has existed, right? But Cirrus gets rewarded for producing all of those great reviews on Google. Also ends up being the first link that you see down here in what's called the organic results as well, right? So if somebody's searching for payroll in that area, they are extremely likely to go ahead and turn to Cirrus because of the great words from everyone who's come before, and because Tyler has done such a great job of setting up a process to make sure he's collecting those from the right people at the right time. So I really encourage you to think about where in your process is the right time to be asking for testimonials, and then make sure that you're getting people to go ahead and write those. And Google is certainly the most impactful place to write them. Once they write them there, you can copy them over to your site as well. One final thing I'll say on reviews, don't tell people what to say on the reviews. If Google sees that half of your reviews are all saying the exact same words, they're smart. They've got a great algorithm to figure that out, and you will suffer miserably on Google results as a result of that. So don't tell people what to write, but if you know that they're deeply appreciative of your service, let them write what they want to, and hopefully you can benefit from that. Then make sure you use the power of Google and Facebook. The vast majority of people who are looking for you are going to see you or look for you either on Google or Facebook or both, even if they're coming in from word of mouth. You want to make sure that your business listings are up to date on both of those. If you haven't claimed your business listings, make sure to do that as well. You can, of course, Google how to claim your business listing on Google. It'll show you exactly how to do it. They've got like a 2-step process. It's very simple to go ahead and do that. Once you have that set up and you're collecting reviews and you've got this entire marketing engine working for you, that's the time to then go into paid advertising. And both Google and Facebook make it very easy to do a cost per click program with them. They'll walk you through the steps for that. It's relatively cost effective for most payroll processors at most places in the country. And best of all, you can start very, very small. So whether you want to start by spending $100 a month, $500 a month, $1,000 a month, whatever it might be, it allows you to very finely target exactly who you're trying to go after, make sure that your investment is working well, tweak your ads, and then you can expand and grow from there. And then finally, search engine optimization. That just means making sure that your site says the words and answers the questions that your visitors to your site are likely to have, right? So make sure that when you look at your site, or when your clients look at your site, they're getting their key questions answered, because that's really the barometer that Google uses to determine how high they're going to place you in rankings. It's a combination of how popular your site is and how accurate it is at solving what visitors are looking for. All right, so at this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Tyler DeRosa. He is a practice development consultant on our team, and he's going to show a little bit about how our system, the payroll release system, helps to boost profitability in some of the ways that we've talked about so far. So Tyler, how are you today?
Hey, Div, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you.
All right, I will go ahead and share this over to you, and you should see it in just a second here.
All right, excellent. Div, looks like we can see my screen at this point, correct?
That's correct.
All right, great. I will get going unless there's anything else you want to hit on, Div.
Nope, I think we're good right now.
All righty, thank you so much. And thank you all very much again. This is Tyler DeRosa, Senior Practice Development Consultant at Accountants World. Payroll relief, as you guys already have heard from Div, who did an incredible job at explaining it, allows you to increase profits significantly while reducing staff hours due to various flexible options in terms of data entry, and essentially eliminating a good portion of that said data entry. After being acclimated and fully implemented, it could really, and it will be, a mouse click program. And what I mean by that is that after you're all onboarded, a couple of clicks of a button and a automated sequence of events is going to take place to allow your headaches, your time-consuming functionalities currently to be alleviated off your plate going forward with the use of payroll relief. So the screen we're looking at here is payroll processing, payroll entry. We utilize what's called exception-based data, and that's payroll entry to streamline the payroll process. It only requires manual entries for items that differ from default hours, default paid fixed income employers, salaried employees. The flexible formats allow you to enter data for multiple employees on a simple yet fully customizable timesheet, as you're looking at here. And for maximum flexibility, you can perform all these tasks manually and override system calculations, enter wage adjustments as needed. So this is a quick entry tool best suited for small to medium-sized payrolls where you only might need to make a quick adjustment on hours or amounts of for a limited number of employees or contractors. But let's talk about some of the options you have here in timesheet options for uploading payroll. You do have two easy data entry options for your clients. Your clients can upload spreadsheets or just give the clients direct access, of course, to let them enter the payroll data themselves, which we see a lot of our clients take advantage of due to our system's permissions-based access capability. So let's click onto here, and as you can see, you have an option number one of emailing a web link, which is going to be a URL of this page that gets sent directly to your customer for them to plug in the hours on the timesheet and then click save. Number two, you can email them an Excel spreadsheet to do the same thing in an Excel CSV form file. And three, actually send a PDF version of a timesheet for them to plug in the hours, send it back to you. That way you can upload it to the system. And like I mentioned, last but not least, you can have them giving them access so they can use this screen here with their own username and password and plug in the data on this timesheet right here. So let's go ahead and calculate this pay schedule. And we're brought to review payroll, where you have a detailed summary highlighting the number of employees paid, total checks processed, direct deposit checks, and the costs associated with this payroll, breaking it down by deductions, taxes, and then a total on the very bottom here. And these are all very helpful items, but we give you even more at the bottom gray bar here, which is going to allow you to make necessary changes in the modifications tab, override calculations, recalculate. If there's any need for a manual override, our system does guarantee 100% accuracy on calculations, but there are certain situations and circumstances that require manual overrides. So we allow you to have that flexibility with those situations. We do give you pre-approval reports after calculating, which will give you a register report, lets you view the payroll information of any range of dates for all employees. As you can see here, this is what their pay stubs will show. And then a very pivotal comparison report, which is going to compare the current payroll we just calculated versus the previously ran and approved payroll. If both payrolls should be looking the same week in and week out, or by week in and by week out, you can confirm that here and know that there's no adjustments or no errors made in this payroll run. Anything over a 20% deviation, it'll actually flag you and caution you to not approve. That way you don't have to go through the headache of approving a payroll, then unapproving it in case there was an error. And once we want to go ahead and actually approve this, before we do that, we can email our customer a password safe protected email of these reports, pre-approval reports, so they can take a look at everything and let you know it's okay to go ahead and approve. But we're going to go ahead and approve for the sake of the time right now, of course. And the payroll's been approved and the heavy lifting is now taking place. As a third-party transmitter, we handle a lot of behind-the-scenes automation, direct deposit process, scheduling of tax liability payments, creating, of course, all the federal state forms for tax purposes, W-2, 1099 as well. We support all 50 states in the United States of America. And now we are brought to the check printing page. In addition to utilizing direct deposit, of course, you can print out any check that's compatible with our system, which would be QuickBooks, MICR, pressure sealed, blank, and other check stock. And if you do have customers that utilize physical checks, you have several ways to actually process that now for them, in that you can email them directly a set of these checks, which would be, again, in a password protected email. You can give them access to this page so they can print out the hard copy of the checks right here, of course, if they have the correct check printer and the correct check stock to go along with the print job. And last but not least, always archive a copy of these to the cloud cabinet that you get for free inside of Payroll Relief, located down here in the bottom gray bar. And this is for safekeeping for the long haul. Nothing is ever purged from the cloud cabinet. And that is free data storage you get inside of Payroll Relief. So let's go ahead over to Payroll Center and jump into the payroll snapshot, which is going to give you a little bit of information about all your clients. It provides a list of all your customers in a consolidated dashboard here with pertinent payroll information across the top, in which I'm going to customize shortly. Let's bring in period ending, payroll status, next tax due date, and apply these so we can now add more columns to the table here. And this is very nice because it's going to ensure that all your deadlines are met and all payroll information has been entered accurately here. Simple scroll and you can see all customers here and export this to Excel to further manipulate the data if you needed to. I wouldn't come here just the beginning of the week, but I would absolutely come here the beginning of every morning to get a health status check-in on all your clients and see who is most pressing on the client service pipeline. Let's go to underneath Payroll Center, now payroll activity, where you have two tabs. Going to go over payroll, today's payroll and employer changes. So you'll be able to view the status of all your clients' payrolls from this screen, helps you track the activity at the end of each day for your entire payroll practice. Again, you can see at a glance the payrolls that have been approved or printed and the payrolls that have been in progress, that are now in progress and have been created and calculated. Let's go to employer changes and view this, where you can monitor all activities for all your clients, what changes were made and who made them. From this perspective, you can catch changes made in error and possibly changes that could be a little speculative. So you can catch anything that could be fraudulent on anyone's end. So another helpful dashboard to view all your customers with certain criteria at once. Manage compliance. These are going to be several screens inside of a compliance dashboard that help you manage compliance activity for all of your customers of your whole entire payroll practice. Again, Payroll Center gives you several consolidated dashboards to view all your customers at once for the convenience factor and to suite all of them together. So the first one we're on here is forms due. This is going to go over the state and federal forms for all your customers. Simple scroll of a mouse and you can see the pertinent criteria that's related to these customers, their forms, and the due dates. Pending tax payments gives us a nice look at all of the forms that are actually associated with the due payments, the status of the payment, the method that it's made by, and the employer name, of course. As you can see, you have federal, and then you see certain states that are associated under the federal and state column. And federal look back, which will give you a look at each quarterly payment. Let's go over to batch processing. Payroll Relief takes batch processing and automation into another level, essentially, and we have now successfully automated automation. Not only can you batch process payroll approvals, but you can do so with printing paychecks, W-2 processing, and 1099 processing. Securely email W-2s in batch form and 1099s as well as e-filing W-2 and 1099 form in batches, processing of multiple clients in a single operation. As you can see here, we do have the back office operations for you to process your 1099s for all your customers and your W-2s. Again, these icons in the very bottom screen here, after you select all your 15 clients right here, gives you the ability to print out hard copies, email these directly, e-file them directly, archive them to the cloud cabinet, and release these to the employee portal that Div had mentioned. And what we could do is give you an idea of what the employee portal will look like, which is a very strong tool for your customers' employees to take advantage of. This is a free add-on application to Payroll Relief in that your customers' employees will be able to download the mobile app on their smartphone and get their pay stubs available once they are in their employee portal, get a home screen notification on their phone, and they can view their pay stubs dating back to inception of Payroll Relief, as well as their W-2s and 1099s. So let's return to Payroll Relief. And I will jump into the last but not least part inside of the dashboard of the customer. So the dashboard is home base for the active employer, the client you have specifically drilled down into from the select employer drop down here, with a breakdown of essential payroll information on this active client, of course. A lot of the things in here are what require the most attention, including payday reminders, taxes, forms due. You do have analytics in the form of graphs down here to go over the monthly gross pay and the cost of payroll for the month for this particular employer. And this will show you all your pay schedules that are needed to be processed. You do have maximum bandwidth for adding as many pay schedules, up to 5, of course. And then your taxes due chart, which is things that we're going to handle for you to take that compliance burden off your plate for both the IRS and the state governments. And what most people normally ask is if our system is industrial strength enough to send out automated reminders, emails. Of course, that's what separates Payroll Relief and Accountants World from the rest. Let's go to firm options and email options here. This will give a great overview of all the essential reminders you would imagine that need to be sent to your customers in regards to their payrolls, their taxes, etc. Payroll reminder, tax due reminder, application for electronic fund transfer and ACH statuses. If there are NSFs, of course, these will also be notified to both you and your customer, and forms for quarterly filed forms. And Div, is there anything else, or was that about everything you had wanted me to hit on here?
No, that's great. Tyler, we've got a few questions that have come in. So if we could take a couple of these now, and then the rest of them, folks, if we don't get to your question, we'll get them in a spreadsheet from GoToWebinar right afterwards. And Tyler, if you and your team can follow up with folks with answers to those questions.
Absolutely.
Okay, so a couple here. What is the conversion process like to move clients from AMS, 1099, ETC, or other applications?
The conversion process, the data migration process, very straightforward, especially coming from a system like AMS that I know you can export to Excel CSV files from. As long as you are able to, which of course I know you are with AMS, anything you can plug into Payroll Relief from those systems will help you get converted over here and migrated all your data from another software platform. We do have specific software platforms like QuickBooks platforms, Intuit Online Payroll, Thomson Reuters, that actually seamlessly migrate with formatted Excel files, and that you can plug in information about employers, employees, payroll information.
Okay, great. One more question here from Mary. Is there a direct deposit limit for payroll, and also what's the lead time on direct deposit pay dates?
There is a limit, and it's rather high. I do not know the exact amount. So Mary, I believe the name was that asked that question. I can certainly get you the exact number from our product management team. And there are three options for lead time. There is 4-day, which is the default method, 3-day, and then 2-day.
Okay, great. Mary, thank you for that question. Elizabeth asked, are there certain industries best suited for the payroll relief platform? And if so, which industries?
Well, I know payroll relief, being industrial strength, does not discriminate towards any industries and handles all of them smoothly. But I do know from my experience with working with our implementation specialists that payroll relief handles restaurant and construction companies exceptionally well.
Okay, great. Let's see if we can get one or two more quick ones here. And again, folks, if you have any other questions, go ahead and write them in, and we will get back to you. Let's see. Okay, we answered that one. Can payroll relief track per diem?
So under the employer and PTO policy, and also building in certain pay types and deductions, you should be able to bring in per diem. You have customized, you have the ability to make customizable pay types and deductions.
Okay, great. Well, folks, we are right at the top of the hour, so I want to be respectful of your time here. Again, if you have any other questions, please go ahead and write them in right now, and we will make sure that someone goes ahead and gets back to you about that. Tyler, thank you so much for your time today, and for all the attendees, thanks for your time. If you'd like to learn more about the payroll relief solution, in addition to writing in any questions you've got right now, please visit payrollrelief.com. That's payroll, RELIEF.com, all one word, and you can learn more about the payroll relief solution. I want to thank you again for joining us today. Tyler, thank you for your time today, and everybody have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Div. Stay well, everyone.